Hello, everyone. Rick and Vic here, and you're listening to Black Lives Chatter. What's going on, brother Vic?
Nothing much, man. I'm excited for this episode. I've been waiting to bring this to everyone.
Me too, man. Me too. I think that our listeners have had ample time to listen to part 1 of the N-word, and now we're getting ready to start part 2. Yeah,
man. I think part 1 is also extremely important to really understand what's going on in part 2, right? Part 1 helps you to digest the history and to really to learn what's going on. And then part 2 is more about how it's affected our community and how everyone else feels about it with our interviews.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, part 1 was kind of like laying the foundation,
of course,
providing that historical knowledge of the word. And now we'll just talk about, how that the word impacts us as Black men. We also have the interviews in this episode. We're able to talk to a lot of different people. You guys will be very interested in hearing what they have to say. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. It was definitely an eye-opener, to say the least. Not everyone agreed with the same views I had. They all had their reasons, and their reasons definitely mattered,
Oh, yeah. And that's why we have the chat, man, to get voices and opinions out there. I think that's one of the best things is for us to just know where we're all coming from. And we don't necessarily have to agree on things, but if we can have that conversation, if you can understand where I'm coming from and respect it, I think we're making a lot of progress.
Definitely. Like for me, the goal is to educate, not to hate. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. So, before we get into it, let's roll that beautiful theme music.
1, you need to know that Black Lives Matter. 2, we believe in love, we believe in laughter. 3, we bring in facts, all the information gathered. Not just a podcast, this is Black Lives Chatter. 1, you need to know that Black Lives Matter. 2, we believe in love, we believe in laughter. 3, we bring in facts, all the information gathered. Not just a podcast, this is Black Lives Chatter. Vic and Ricky in the lab with a sound mind. 2 Black kings, I think it's crown time. Turn on the cast and you're up or you're downtime. We need a Black Lives outlet, think I found mine.
Black Lives Chatter because Black Lives Matter. We got interviews, opinions, and plenty witty banter. Keep you updated on the topics of the culture. Listen to the news while we watch out for the vultures.
1, you need to know that Black Lives Matter.
So before we get into the interviews, Vic, what would you say was your first experience with the N-word?
Man, you told me you wanted to talk about that before, and it took me a minute to really think, and I was like, was my first experience through Roots? Right? I was like, did someone call me that word? And I was like, no, not when I was young. I never really got that. And I realized that my first experience was definitely through movies like Friday and through music. Like media definitely dictated what my first experiences were with that word. I don't know. How about you?
I think that my experience with the word is pretty similar to yours. When I was younger, I used to watch a lot of Dave Chappelle's stand-up, right? And I used to watch the Dave Chappelle show, which I loved. I loved the Chappelle show.
Yeah, F your couch, N-word. Like, that's that's one of the biggest jokes from the show.
Should never gave you N-words money. And so watching that show, of course, Dave used the N-word a lot. And I used to watch, of course, Eddie Murphy's stand-up or Cat Williams stand-up.
Yeah.
And
Cat Williams, a.k.a. the Alligator Man.
Yeah. And so, Cat Williams, I used to watch his stand-up too. And these are all guys that, of course, use the N-word very liberally in their comedic acts. And so I was acquainted with the word through that. And also, like, I had older cousins that would use the word. And then I'd be like, oh, okay, this is this word is cool, and it's also cool. Funny. You know what I mean? And so if I want to be those things, I should use the word. And it's not like my parents let me say it or let me or my sister say it.
Yeah, me neither.
We would definitely get in trouble.
Yeah, I didn't go to my dad and say, hey, can I say the N-word? That never happened.
What's up, Dad? My N-word?
Yo, Dad, you trying to holler at an N-word? What's up?
Can the N-word get some food?
That never happened in the Black household. But
no.
It's funny because I think movies like that, like Friday and like dealing with your older cousins, especially as a young person, that taught you how to use that word properly before you got to see that word in a negative light, right?
Yeah.
So the first time you see it, it's endearing, and sometimes it's like, yo, N-word, how you doing? Like, it's been a long day. We trying to kick it. Or it can be like, N-word, what you doing over there? You know what I mean? That's like the beauty of the word, because it can be like bro or bro.
Yeah,
you know?
and even down to like the subtle little inflections that you use with it too. Yeah. It really could just mean so much just by like the situation you use it in and the intonation of your voice.
Yeah, it's a versatile word.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. But, you know, as I got older, you know, I started to realize that there was more to the word than it just being funny or, you know, cool. And as I got older, I just realized that there was, you know, it became more about respect for me, you know. And so we talk about this a little later in the podcast, but one of my policies with the N-word is, you know, not saying it around white people. And the reason for that is that my experiences have kind of have shown me that if I don't use the word around white people, you know, I will have less occurrences of white people using the word around me. And then I won't have to have that uncomfortable conversation where I'm like, look, man, don't say that. Because I've had to have that. You know, there's one time at work, I had a coworker, a white guy, say the word, and I was like, nah, man, that's not cool. He's like, what you mean? I hear you say it. And I looked at him and I'm like, when have you heard me say it? You know, and he just looked at me because he realized that I don't say it around him. And, you know, for me, that was like one of those moments where I'm like, ooh, aha, you know, I can get him, you know, if I don't say it, you know, because a lot of times it's like monkey see, monkey do, unfortunately. Yeah. You know, and I hate to see it be like that. But I just would rather not be playing a part in like the normalization of the word. But I understand that there's different viewpoints. Like I told you that I was talking to another coworker, a black woman, about how I view it and how I go about it, and she was like, "Look, why do we always have to conform to white people? You know, why is it that we have to change what we do all the time, just to change something that they do or make them be better?" Yeah, and that is a valid viewpoint. Yeah, you know, it's so valid. And she approaches it very differently than me. She said that a white guy said it around her, and she was like, "Look, the next time you say it around me, I'm gonna knock you out. Simple as that." And not saying that I condone violence, but you need to understand that different people deal with it in different ways. And you know, if you're a person that decides to test a person's you know level of comfort, you know, or you know their boundaries, just have to be prepared to face the consequences of that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I like the idea, honestly, of having a kind of standard. And it's like, I don't use it in front of people. I don't want them, because I don't want them to use it on me, right? So I don't want to use it in front of a white person because I'm not comfortable a white person saying it. But I use it in front of a black person because I'm comfortable with a black person saying it. But there is, for me, true, there's always loopholes, or not loopholes, but there's always different exceptions. Like for me, if it's one of my best friends or close friends who respects me and they understand me, I won't mind using it in front of them, but I'll never use it in a conversation with them, right? I would never make it normal for them to hear that in like a back and forth. That would never be the case.
Yeah, it just goes to show you that, you know, people deal with it differently. And if you're a person that, you know, wants to say around it, say the word around whoever, you know, black people, that's up to you. You deal with it how you deal with it, but it's just to let everybody know that people deal with it differently.
Yeah, everyone's different. There's no universal answer for this, right? If there was, then it would have been solved. The problem, well, I don't know if it would have been solved, but at least there would be a common platform everyone could argue, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, I would say, like you said, it wouldn't be solved, but I think there'd be more of an understanding and less like ideological clashes about it. Like it was one of those things where, you know, as adults, we'd be able to be like, okay, this is right and this is wrong, and then move forward. We shouldn't. There wouldn't be so many debates about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that unearthed footage of Tiger King, where he was like, it was like effing ridiculous. I can't say the N-word, but you go on YouTube and listen to any black rapper say the N-word, N-word, N-word this, N-word that.
I never seen that. I think I heard of him. I didn't know.
It was I forget dude's name right now.
Joe, not Joe.
Yeah, Joe Exotic. You're right. You're right. Joe Exotic.
Yeah.
So like he had his little YouTube channel, And there was also footage from the documentary that they were doing on him. Most of that footage, well, I should say a lot of the footage went into the Netflix show.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of it that was left out, and the producers and people who worked on the show, they admitted that Joe Exotic is an extremely racist man.
Oh yeah, of course, he's from Oklahoma.
Extremely racist man, and that they omitted a lot of footage of him that included him saying racist things because they felt that it didn't fit the plot of the documentary. But yeah, a little clip surfaced on Twitter, and it was of him, going on that rant about not being able to say the N-word, even though rappers say it.
I can't say the N-word, but you can get on YouTube and watch any black man's rap video, and they're calling each other the N-word. What the hell is this discrimination? I'm white, I can't say the N-word, and they can. And then we got the United States Department.
Joe Exotic's racist? No, I was fighting for him. He ain't do nothing wrong. Carol Baskins. She did it all.
Yeah. What's funny about it to me is that it was just, I was not surprised at all hearing those things come from him.
Yeah, man. It's sad. But as we look into different opinions and different viewpoints, I think that's a good segue into the interviews where you guys will ultimately be able to hear different voices from different groups of people. And I'm really excited to be able to share those voices with you guys. I
was just going to say, there's a lot of cool stuff in here, man. A lot of people have experiences. I think I said this before, it's a topic where a lot of people have either had an experience with the word or have read enough or heard enough about the word to at least have formed an opinion. You don't have to be an expert to say something about, or have an opinion about how the word should be used, or, who should say it, if anyone at all. And so we thought, hey, why not go and talk to some regular people, some everyday folks, and see what they have to say about it. And it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that word has affected everyone, white, black, no matter what race you are. It's definitely affected you on some level. So we decided to get voices from all walks of life. We have black people, we have black guys, we have black girls, we have older black people, we have white people on it. So we have everyone, or a lot of different people at least, to come speak their mind.
And the interviews were all anonymous, so no one's name is used, and so people really felt free to be honest about their thoughts and opinions, and we really did get some cool interviews.
So without further ado, let's get on with it, and then afterwards we're going to discuss our feelings on the interviews and our personal stories about dealing with that word.
So how do you feel about people saying the N-word?
With a hard R, since you said that, I think that's definitely inappropriate. I do agree that it's more common for people to say A, but usually just singing, I don't think it's cool if black people say it to black people, so I guess then it becomes common when we're talking to each other, but if a white person or not black person said it, it's still not even cool with the A. But yeah.
I mean, personally, for yourself, are there certain groups of people that make you uncomfortable when they say it, or if anybody says it as casually Nigga, it doesn't bother you?
I think when people say it, it's off-putting, but I don't really hang out with people who say that word that often. So in my circles, if it came up, it would be not okay. But usually for me it's just in songs, which is more.
So as a black woman, do you have a policy for saying the word yourself? Do you say it around just anyone, or do you not say it at all, or is it something in between?
I just don't say it. I just think it's offensive, and people should just stop saying it. But having a white boyfriend, he says then you shouldn't say things like cracker. So then okay, I mean, I agree, people should just not call people derogatory terms in general.
Right. So if if no one said it at all, it would be ideal for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. How do you feel about people saying the N-word?
I don't know.
do you feel like some people should be allowed to say it and some people shouldn't? You feel like nobody should at all?
I mean, nobody has the right to say it. Nobody really does.
So, to you, like, no one should say it at all?
I mean, people still say it like I say it half the time. Like, I'm not gonna... Nobody should say it because the background, like, the meaning of the word of it is very, like, powerful and stuff like that. People could take it in different ways. And it causes, like, situations and stuff. So, yeah, I don't think people should say it.
Say that one more time?
I don't think people should say it. No, I don't think people should say it.
But you say it.
Yeah, I do. I do. I do.
Okay, thanks. So how do you feel about people using the N-word?
Personally, doesn't really apply to me as I'm not, not of that ethnicity.
But surely you have an opinion somewhere or another?
Of course, everybody's got an opinion about it.
Okay.
My opinion is like, you shouldn't be using words to like, I can understand if you're from that ethnicity, that's up to you because it's a word that applies to you. But if it's other people calling people that with the intention to hurt,
right.
It's like nobody should be doing that. It's fellow man. Don't hurt your fellow man.
All right, thank you, sir. So how do you feel about people saying the N-word?
To me personally, it really doesn't bother me that much. It depends on how close you are to the person. So say like one of my right friends comes to me and say like, yo, what's good, my nigga? I'm not going to get mad at them. I'm just be like, yo, what's good, my nigga? I mean,
So what if it's a white person that you don't know that well? You don't like it?
I feel like it depends on how it's said.
You mean like if they say like ER, hard R,
Yeah.
you wouldn't like it?
Yeah, I wouldn't like it. But if does it like seem like a real cool person and be like, yo, my nigga, what's up? Like, how feeling people are. I wouldn't get mad.
So as a black person, do you have a policy for saying the word or you just say it around whoever you don't care?
I just say it around whoever I don't care because at the end of the day, I'm going to say what I want, I feel like everybody's entitled to how they feel in their opinion, but look, there's only so much you can do. At the end of the day, they're going to say what they want to say at the end of the day, so.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
So how do you feel about people saying the N-word?
I feel torn because on one hand, I feel like the word has evolved and it's not that terrible in its meaning when it comes to people of color. However, on the other hand, it's like, okay, well, how can one group of people say the word and other people not? At the same time, like, the word comes from a place of a terrible origin, and it was used to basically demean people, but now we've kind of used it as a way to endear, I guess. I don't know, on some ends. On other ends, it is also still used to put people down in a sense. Like, I can use the N-word in the same sentence to lift up somebody, and also in the same sentence be like, yo, you're whack. Like, what do you mean?
Tell me what you think about people using the N-word.
I think non-black people should never use it.
So not even with music?
No, because I feel like it's such a complicated subject. It's just easier to not say it. What do you gain from saying it as a non-black person?
So how do you feel about people saying the N-word?
Me, I don't really care so much, just because the era we live in now. Like, if you force yourself to say it and you just saying it for no reason, and then that bother me. But if it just naturally come out, I know white people that grew up with black kids, and same thing with black people growing up with Mexicans and stuff. You kind of learn their language. So that's how I feel about it. I mean, if you're like saying it just naturally, and then I don't really care. But if you're saying it just on purposely, and then that's when I care.
So for you, is it more about like where the person comes from than like what they look like?
Yeah, it's about where they come from, basically. Yeah, definitely.
All right, thanks, man.
All right.
So how do you feel about people saying the N-word?
My opinion on the N-word, I feel honestly it's like should be open as long as it's used in a good term way. Like you're saying it, you're using it as a description, but if you're not really sitting there disrespecting somebody using it, I can understand it really shouldn't matter the way you use it.
So it's all about intention?
Yeah, it's all about attention basically. On how you use it is really if you should use it or not.
How do you feel about people saying the N-word?
I think first and foremost, anyone can say whatever they want, whether it's Nick, fat, or back in the day, WAP. But I think people always deserve what's coming to them when they use hate speech.
How do you use the N-word, if you ever use it?
I don't use it. I am never in a situation that ever calls for that. Never have I yelled any hate speech at a black individual, and I don't share a lot of black camaraderie. So I never use it even in slang or anything. If I do use it, I'll say this: it's strictly in either academia or in an instance like this, in which someone is specifically talking about it.
So what's your opinion on the N-word?
So I think it's hard to answer that question without thinking about the history of it. Mm-hmm. And I think that, historically the N-word is degrading. But I think that it is up to us as Black people to determine how we're going to use it. I always felt like that's the word in modern times that belongs to us, so we can do with that word what we want. We should be able to make the decision about whether it should be used or shouldn't be used. And I think, leave it to us. We are reversible people. So we took a word that was demeaning and we have made it an empowering word sometimes. I don't personally love the word, but I always felt uncomfortable letting someone else tell me how to use it and how to not use that word.
All right, so what's your opinion on the N-word?
I mean, it's common practice to kind of use it. I believe people should be either all in on it or all out on it. Don't try to, separate folks by creed and all this different type of stuff. Just either use the word or don't type deal.
Okay, do you use the word?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think about the N-word?
I don't think it's a word that should be used. I think it's a word that should be eradicated from usage, period. It's probably one of the most, if not the most, offensive word in history. And I think the kids today that haven't gotten the history of the word, they don't know enough about the word, but took upon the word for some reason or another. And I think more need to be taught about it, but why it's so offensive. Like we've gotten away from the, a lot of people don't want to see no more slave movies, they call them. But with no slave movies, you have that word being used in the way that it's offensive. Whether we took upon the word and try to turn to a term of endearment, which just doesn't make sense to me. Whether you have an A on the end or ER, it's the same thing. But of course, your generation after you come up with this new thing that, it's a greeting now. But how does your grandparents feel about it? And your great-grandparents feel about it when they'll call that in a derogatory fashion? When that word meant ignorance, when that word meant lower than, any other type of person, if it even you can even say a person. But now you can call that as a term of endearment. So how do you justify that?
So first off, let me start by saying, wow, what insight and what wisdom from the people that we got to talk to. I was I would say pretty blown away by just like the range of responses that we got. And there's a couple things that really kind of stuck in my mind after listening to the people that I talked to and the people that you talked to as well. The first thing I would say, and we could even take turns like saying things that that caught our attention. The first thing for me was intention. And as far as there are some people who really feel as if it doesn't matter who, there should be no restrictions on who's allowed to say the N-word. And of course, we're talking about Nigga here, because it's important to make that distinction.
I think so as well. I think due to how words kind of evolve over time, they are two different words at this point. Maybe
it is.
They had the same origin, but at this point in time, I think the two words are different.
Yeah, it's important to make the distinction. Like when we talked about in media, we talked about Django Unchained, of course, where it was hard R, used 110 times. But then we talked about music and hip hop. Of course, rappers and NWA weren't going around saying Nigger, right? They weren't saying hard R. In music, we hear Nigga. So these people in the interviews, they talk about both of them. But when it comes to intention, I think that is mainly focused towards the casual Nigga version. And how some people really think that doesn't matter who you are, as long as your intentions are good. If you're using it in a friendly manner or in a comedic manner, or it just in a light way, in a way that's not meant to put somebody down, then it's fine. And that's not something that I agree with.
Yeah, nor I don't agree with it either. I was actually surprised by that revelation that like people had that opinion. For me, I respectfully disagree with that. This is not my opinion. I think that, especially with the A, right, that's all about camaraderie and being part of that community, right?
Yeah.
So if your intention is to join that community, well, you're not a part of it, right? If that intention is to like play and be cool with us, well, there's other ways to do that, right? Instead of using the word that we obviously started reclaiming.
Yeah, that's true. You can be an ally. Being able to say or not say the N-word, doesn't mean you're an ally or not. There's other real and practical ways you can help the Black community, without having to say that word, even in the casual sense. But I think that attitude is a little bit more like new age, you know what I mean? Like kind of a modern outlook where
of course,
the word isn't seen as strong as it used to be. And so you see like younger people, but I will say, of course the interviews are completely anonymous, but some of the people that I interviewed that voiced that opinion of intention about the N-word, those are people that were my age. And so that even surprised me more, because I would be less surprised if, say, a younger person, somebody that is like Gen Z or is in high school, voiced that opinion. Because I think for those kids, the symbology of the word is kind of faded.
Yeah.
But for people my age, I thought you would be a little bit more, you know what I mean? Have more of a solid opinion, or I guess be more firm about the word. I don't know.
No, I again, like I said earlier, I was a tad bit surprised too, because people are our age. I'm grouping myself in with you. You're not that old, brother. You're not that old.
Yeah.
So you would think that we
that
would
old.
be. Yeah, I'm 26. You know what I'm saying? But it's interesting though to see that mindset that everyone is different, and I guess when you get down to it, I mean, the word means different things to different people, because every word does, right?
Yeah, I find that it's just very subjective, man. And another thing that I noticed people would say is about control, right? There was one person that said you can't control who says it, and that's something that I mentioned earlier before. It's like I personally don't like hearing white people or non-black people of color, right, say the N-word, whether it's hard R or A. You know what I mean? If that happens around me, it's my policy to be like, of course, very respectfully and kindly, not get mad about it. Just be like, look, I don't really appreciate that. Don't say that around me. That would be great. Thanks.
Like I like what the one gentleman said about if you say that, you deserve kind of what's coming to you. you should, you can't stop people from saying it, but
you can't stop people from saying it, because people are going to say, I guess, and while they're by themselves or they're listening to music in their car. We talked about that already. People are going to say it. I did like what he said though. Like if you come around someone, say if you're a white person or a non-black person of color, and then you use that word in a social setting or around somebody that you don't know or who isn't okay with it, then there's going to be backlash. There's going to be consequences, and you should be prepared to face those consequences.
Definitely. And another thing stuck out to me was even in the cases of education and academia, it's like I understand it, right? Because when you're speaking on that level, I get saying the actual word, but it still cuts deep, right? Even if you're saying it to educate yourself, I would rather not hear that word.
And that, I think, goes back to the whole Quentin Tarantino thing too, where he used the word, right, hard R in Pulp Fiction, and it's like, could he have chosen another way around that? Right.
Yes.
And I remember reading about the whole issue of like Huckleberry Finn in classrooms, right? And white teachers, white teachers who are teaching classrooms that have children of all racial, cultural, and ethnic backgrounds. And of course, that book is littered with hard R N-word.
Yes.
And it's like, should white teachers be able to say that when referencing the book, or should they force or make children read that word as it appears in the book? Even though, of course, it's a historical reference, it's a book that references a time period where slavery was going on, right?
Yeah, well, here's my response to that. I think it's very easy to not say a word. I don't believe in sanitizing history. I don't believe in erasing it. But that word is in that book, and that book can be used as a tool to teach these kids, right? To put that word shouldn't even be in their vocabulary in terms of something they would say, right?
Yeah.
They should understand what it is. But so my answer is, teachers and students shouldn't say it, but they should still read the book.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, because it's like you don't want to get into the place where it's like, oh, we shouldn't read Huckleberry Finn because it's it's a great literary work, right? It's essential reading for kids in their language arts classes and things like that. But I do remember reading an article where there's black kids that would say, if the teacher made us read it, even if they changed it to N-word, everybody would still know what the word is, and that you get those looks, those side-eye glances, and things that make young black kids uncomfortable. And of course, you don't want that either. So it's definitely a tough situation there.
I'll tell you what, man. I've been that uncomfortable black kid, and I hated it. But I think it's still an opportunity to teach the people who aren't black what that word means.
True, and that's true. The history behind it.
Yeah, man. Unfortunately, it's American history. We can never get rid of that.
You can't get rid of it, and it's interesting that you say get rid of it, because there's another interviewee who said the word, and it's a strong word, eradicated, right? The idea that should the N-word in all its forms be completely taken out of our vocabulary. I'll tell you, my personal belief about it is that in a perfect world, no one says it.
I agree.
Unfortunately, though, our world is not perfect.
Not at all. Not even close.
Not even close. And so I think that it's a good notion. Every word that has ever been used to put people down in history in a derogatory manner or dehumanize anybody, all those words, of course, should be taken out of our lexicon in a perfect world. But again, it goes back to you can't really stop people from saying what they want to say, where they want to say it. It's difficult. I could literally put somebody through like a 2-hour seminar about the history of the N-word, but somebody could listen to this podcast episode, and the history behind the word, and then, still turn around and say it like they want to. That's just the reality.
But what we can do is kind of change that word and form it into meaning something else, right? So what we can do is what we're already doing, which is reclaiming that word for ourselves with the A version of it, with GGA. And I think that is a good, not the best solution, but it's our solution. It's the one we're using right now.
I would say it's a solution. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a solution.
I would say it's a solution. I think it's something that could definitely work for some people. And I think we talked about it in the tokenism episode, where I spoke about the debate that went on between me and a young black female coworker, where we didn't see eye to eye, and the topic of that debate was the N-word, and for me, I was like, look, I want to explain to people why that word's bad, and she, was more like, I want to be able to say the word whenever, and I shouldn't have to tell you why I'm doing that. You should already know. And for a person like that, that reclamation ideology works perfectly. You know what I mean? I'm taking that word back. It's mine. Don't ask me any questions about it. But for someone who, like one of the interviewees that wants the word completely gone, I mean, to them, it's like, it's completely gone. I don't want to reclaim it. I want it gone. And so there's another thing that he said that was pretty interesting too, is about learning the history, and how if more people learn the history of the word, more people might be inclined, like Oprah, like Brando Simeo Starkey, to not say it.
To not say it at all.
Yeah, I say. And he said, there's some people who don't want any more slave movies. And I don't know if you heard about this, but there's some people who kind of don't want for them to show movies like 12 Years a Slave or Roots, The Amistad, those old movies that, well, I guess 12 Years a Slave isn't that old, but those movies that have slavery at the center of their that's the central storyline, is a person who's a slave who is trying to escape slavery or experience slavery. And I heard someone say, there's another work chat that we had. This lady, she has kids that are around that age, like high school age or middle school age, where they show kids those movies for historical context. And she was like, look, kids, black kids, white kids, all these kids watch these movies, and all it does is raise racial tensions. That's her view. And she was like, why would we show them those movies and just bring back those, racial tensions and just start fights in school? And I'm like, wow, that's quite a viewpoint.
Yeah, I have an opinion on that.
Okay.
Going back to the idea of not showing those movies at all, I disagree with that. But I do see a point that maybe we should have more uplifting black movies as well. I think that there's no good balance, right? And that's my issue with movies like 12 Years a Slave and Roots and things like that. Those are excellent films, excellent works of art that you should definitely see to learn about history, to learn who you are, where you came from, literally your roots.
Yeah, literally.
But I want to see. But I also want to see more movies with like black stories, just more uplifting stories. I don't know how to say it, but I guess
think
just growing up whenever
the positive aspects of Black history. I think.
Yeah, I guess that's what I mean, right? I remember growing up, every time my father would come to me and say, "Hey, I have a movie you should watch about black people." I know I'm about to be depressed for the next 2 weeks. It's, you know what I'm saying, man? Like I don't necessarily mean we need more Hancock and Men in Black, but we need more actual positive black stories. You know what I mean?
Yo, Hancock is such a good movie, man.
It is, man. If only it was true.
Yeah, people out here thinking that Hitch is Will Smith's one of his best movies, or Independence Day. Nah, man. I got Hancock for you.
Hancock's in my top 10. It's in my top 10 Will Smith movie.
Same here. Watch it, guys.
There was one thing I wanted to ask you about before I forgot. How do you feel about the N-word being for a culture instead of for a people? Like one person said, it's okay for a white person to say it if they're part of the culture.
That's interesting, because I actually was having a conversation with one of my white friends who grew up around a lot of black kids and had a lot of black friends, and he was kind of making that argument to me where it's like, look, I don't say it in an offensive way. I've never meant it in an offensive way. I would never use it that way. So, why should someone, tell me that I can't say it, or why am I not allowed to say it? And, I think what it boils down to is like, if you're a black person who is okay with people that you know very well, who don't mean it in an offensive way, saying it, then, you know what I mean? By all means, you let your friends say it around you, you do you. If you're a person who isn't comfortable with that, that's okay too. But I think for the white person or non-black person of color who's on the other end of that, you know, trying to fight for their right to be able to say it, I think that for that person, I think you just got to respect the boundaries and the feelings of the people that you're around. You know, so if a person's okay with you saying it, all right, there you go. But if a person's like, look, man, I don't like that, I'm not comfortable with it, I'd rather you not say it. Like, look, don't be a jerk about it, because that's what it boils down to. You know, a person, seriously, if you really are friends with somebody or you really care about other people, respect, you know, other people's feelings, and because I'm sure you would want someone to respect yours as well. So
definitely, and to cut it more even deeper in a way, I have a comparison. But first, it's like that word came from your culture insulting my culture. So for you to want to say that word as a fun thing with me to try to uplift my culture, it kind of bothers me. It's the same thing where, like, sometimes some girls will call each other the B word, right? Yeah. This is my comparison. And they'll be like, yeah, B, like, we're having a good night, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're having a good night.
Could you imagine if I went up to a girl or my girlfriend and was like, yeah, B, we're having a good... You can't do that.
I would never
because
do
that originates from, you know, guys calling girls that word, like you're being a B. So I take it from that level where you're not part of that culture, right? You come from the people that insulted that culture.
Yeah, and I think it's almost kind of weird to try to want to, like, squeeze yourself in there too.
Yeah,
like, is it really worth that much to you that you need to be able to say it? Is that what you're trying to
just
tell me?
Just because you like Kendrick Lamar doesn't make you a black person.
Like, do you
especially
really,
if you love him?
Yeah, you really got to have it that bad, man. I don't know. I think it gets
I love the Beatles, but I'm not a British person from the 70s. You know
exactly.
What I mean? Like,
I think it's to a point where it's a little weird, where it's like, you know, you can't have everything. You know, not everyone is meant to be able to do everything or, you know, say everything. Especially when it comes to things that are like socially sensitive or culturally sensitive. In this case, racially sensitive. We just got to be more aware, man, of just I don't know, the boundaries, like I said, and how to respect other people.
Yeah. So what I'm getting is, I have another question to ask you down the line, but for now, what I'm getting is, no matter who the person is, because everyone's different and has different opinions on the matter, it seems like it always boils down to respect. Is the first thing. So even for that person who was like, I don't care if someone says it, that if they're a part of my culture, it still needs to be respect. That she said, right, or something like that needs to be. It's like how you say it, your intention is out of respect.
I would say that, and actually, let me segue that into my personal policy for the N-word.
Go ahead.
Because that's what it reminds me of. Like I said earlier, in a perfect world, no one says the N-word, right? But of course, we don't live in a perfect world. I do say the N-word. For those of you who don't know, most of you probably do. I do say it, but
you do.
I'm sorry I disappoint you, Brother Vic. I do.
Yeah, man, I'm upset.
But when I do say it, I only say it around friends and family members that I know very well. People that I know there'll be no issue if I say the word. I won't say it around black people that I just met, you know, people who I don't know well. And I really try not to say it around white people too, just so there won't be any issues. And so for me, you know, it is a lot about respect. It's not like if a person says it around me, you know, for the first time, and I just pop off on you, you know what I mean? That's not me, you know, but I would just be like, look, you know, I don't really like that. So, and it will go from there. You know, if you want to respect that, you can respect that. If not, you know, then we'll have an issue. And usually that doesn't happen. I'll be honest. As I've gotten older, my policy has changed. Like, I'm ashamed to admit this, but there was a time in history, in
back in the day,
exactly, young Ricardo's history, where, you know, there was this white girl that I liked, and I used to let her say the N-word, like, you know what I mean, not like a hard R, but I used to let her say the, you know, the A around me. And it wasn't always like that. I remember when I didn't like her when I first met her, and she would say it, I'm like, nah, man, that's not cool. But then I started to like her, and then I was like, I just let it slide because I didn't want no smoke, man. And like I said, I'm ashamed to admit it.
No, I had the same thing too in college, where I had friends who would say it, and when we're playing video games, I didn't really think about it too much. But one time they said it to me, like, in the hallway, like, just kidding around. I was like, I don't like that. And I told him that. I was like, I don't like you guys saying that. And since then, I've always been like, my policy is very similar to yours now, where I only use it with close black friends is about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes I will say it in front of like my white friends if I'm talking to one of my black friends or about them in like a fun way.
Right.
But like I don't use it too freely.
Have you ever had an experience where someone's used it on you in like an offensive manner, like hard R or something like that?
No, but I've been something close to that. Yeah, it's a story I wanted to tell you. No one knows about this except for like really close friends, like a couple of them.
Okay.
So one day I was playing Xbox Live Call of Duty, right? And I had a young teacher. He was playing with us, and he died a lot. And we were having a bad match. And apparently he said the word after dying, like the A version, still bad.
Right.
And I didn't hear it, and I didn't even know about it, but everyone in chat was like, yo. And then the teacher left chat, and the next day he came to me and apologized. And I didn't really talk about it any further, but after a while, I was like, man, I can't believe he really said that. And, I don't think he was a racist person because he had a great impact on my life. He was probably one of my closest teachers and one of my best teachers. He was just a young dude who made a mistake, and I forgave him for that. But why was that the first thing he went to?
Yeah.
When he was like angry, when he was losing in a video game. Why did he say that?
Yeah, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth too, where it's like,
definitely.
You kind of look at a person a certain way, and then especially you're talking about a teacher, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
What grade was this?
This is 12th grade, I think. 12th grade or 11th. Old enough where I was like 17, 18, and like it was okay for me to be playing video games with my teacher.
Right.
I wasn't in like middle school, right?
I got you. And
yeah,
man, that's definitely awkward. Like you're like, oh, really, dude?
Yeah,
that's what you're gonna say. All right.
Yeah, like why did he go to that? I don't know where that comes from, and I think maybe he had an upbringing where he was just conditioned in like a negative way. And again, I don't think he's a racist person, but that still bothered me that was the first thing that came out of his mouth. Whether or not I heard it, he said he did it, and everyone else said that.
That definitely would have bothered me too, man. I would have just kind of changed my perspective on that person completely. Like, oh man, all right.
It probably would have been worse if I heard it out of his mouth. Honestly, definitely would have been worse.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it is that whole, just online gaming and that culture of just.
Yeah, because he said like a cuss word, like he was like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think we can all agree that online gaming is where the most obscenities are spewed.
Yeah, man, it brought me back to my high school days where like we would say the F word, just being like not F you, the F word, to be like to insult people online. And there was an era where hate speech is, I mean, it's still going on video games, but it was definitely way worse back then.
There's actually a story that comes to mind for me, and it's not really an N-word story, but it's since you said the FA word that's used to reference gay people, right? There was a friend that I had, one of my dorm mates when I lived in Ohio. And he was a gay guy, and one day we went to a fraternity gathering together. Right, it was like something it's like an event for kids that are trying to rush the frat, and we were both trying to rush the frat at that time. And so we went to this event, and it was like in the house, probably like 15, 20 dudes there, and there was a lot of that word being thrown around. And me, I didn't really think a whole lot of it because it's just like at that time I was probably like 18, and to me, I used to use that word a whole lot too, and I didn't really see anything wrong with it. But I remember that me and my roommate, and he was a good friend of mine. Like I really appreciated him, as a friend, and we went there together. We left together, and he had tears in his eyes. Oh
wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, like what's wrong? And he was like, Ricky, I want to be in this frat, but if that's how they look at gay people, like how could I ever be in here? How could I ever fit in here? And it was like in that moment, it was like I realized why the word, that I had used so much all throughout high school, without thinking about it. I realized how much power that word held, and why I shouldn't say that word anymore, like why it was wrong to say. And, you know, I don't say it anymore. Ever since then, I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm not trying to say that word. When I hear people say it, it just kind of hits, it sounds really ugly now when I hear people say it.
Yeah.
And I think that people should be able to realize, even if it doesn't affect you, you know, even if the word doesn't hurt you or you don't realize the weight behind it for yourself, it affects other people in profound ways. And I think that we should respect that.
Absolutely. And I have this clip from Louis. I'm not sure
when he says the word.
If you've seen it.
No, it bothers me when you say it, because you mean it.
Yeah, but really, it's like, as a comedian and a gay guy, you're the only gay comic I know. Do you think I shouldn't be using that word on stage?
I think you should use whatever word you want. And when you use it on stage, I can see it's funny, and I don't care. But are you interested to know what it might mean to gay men?
Yeah, I am interested.
Well, the word really means a bundle of sticks used for kindling in a fire. Now, in the Middle Ages, when they used to burn people they thought were witches, they used to burn homosexuals too. And they used to burn the witches at a stake, but they thought the homosexuals were too low and disgusting to be given a stake to be burned on. So they used to just throw them in with the kindling, with the other. So that's how you get flaming.
So what you're saying is gay people are a good alternative fuel source. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You might want to know that every gay man in America has probably had that word shouted at them when they're being beaten up. Sometimes many times. Sometimes by a lot of people all at once. So when you say it, it kind of brings that all back up. But, you know, by all means use it, get your laughs, but you know, now you know what it means.
But in the clip, they discuss the F word, and you can kind of attribute the N word to the same discussion. And the guy eventually says why he's so offended by it, why it bothers him so much as a gay man. And he says it brings up all the pain that he endured being gay. It just reminds him of all that pain. And that's how I feel about the N word. It just, when we hear it, it reminds us of all that pain.
Yeah.
And all that history. And all those slave movies, everything is in the forefront of your mind.
Yeah, it reminds you that you're different, but in a bad way. You know, it's not like unique where, you know, it's a positive statement, you know, about yourself, but it's a word that kind of defines you in a way that you're not comfortable with when it's coming from certain people. And I think maybe that's the distinction between, you know, the whole, why can't, you know, a white person say it, or, you know, a Hispanic person say it, because personally, as I've gotten older, the less comfortable I've gotten, you know, with Hispanic friends and acquaintances saying the word. I don't really like it, or I'm okay with it.
It doesn't define them. It doesn't.
No. And somewhere along the way, you know, whether it's like, you know, music, I think has a lot to do with it. You know, there's artists like, you know, Fat Joe, other artists who were of Latino or Hispanic descent that would say it and nobody would have a problem with it. And I think, you know, people kind of got the idea that it's okay for that group of people to say it. But actually, you know, had that happen with me where, you know, a Hispanic friend, I'm at his house and he says the word. I'm like, nah, man, you know, I'm not really cool with that, you know, and there was just a situation where he got defensive. His mom defended him.
Defending his right to say it.
His fiance defended him. Bro. You know, and I'm like in this room by myself with 3 grown adults trying to tell me why I shouldn't be offended.
That almost makes me more offended, right?
I know, dude. It was like the Twilight Zone. Literally, I remember just standing there and just wanting to leave. You know, and it was like the Twilight Zone. I didn't understand what was going on, but you know, it just all goes back to that. You know, when someone says they're not okay with it, understand that they're not okay with it. You're not going to change the fact that they're not okay with it. You're not going to make them okay with it.
Yeah, how are you going to get mad at me for getting upset for something you said? You know what
exactly,
I mean?
Man.
It's like when you're a kid and you're like, you and your cousin fight and he hurts you too much and you start crying and he tells you, I didn't hit you that hard. How you going to tell me how hard you hit me?
How you gonna tell me, man? How you gonna tell me? It's true. It's so true.
And as a black person, it almost feels like we are conditioned to get upset. Even if we don't want to get upset, we are conditioned to get upset.
And sometimes you got to try to bottle it in.
Yeah, and you really can't. Like, you cannot show it on the outside, but on the inside, you always feel it. That word hurts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, even when we discussed it earlier, when we were saying it just to like discuss the podcast, it still hurt. Even coming from the black person, the ER word.
Yeah. Guys, if you don't know, we had a little bit of a chat about that and whether we should actually say, hard R for our historical references or in other places in the podcast. And it got to the point where I said it just trying to read one of our historical references, and Vic is like, nah, I don't even like you saying it, man.
I was getting mad at you.
Yeah. It just goes to show.
Yeah, man. Definitely. But I think that's it. Unless you got any more things you want to say.
Nah, man. I think that we've been talking for a long time.
Yeah. But there's so much, man.
It's a great conversation to have, though. It's a great chat, man. Really. And I hope that you guys at home or wherever you're at listening to the podcast, I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope that you guys are able to, share what you learned and just use it. For me, bottom line is don't be a jerk, guys. Don't be a jerk.
Yeah. And this discussion is ongoing, right? It never stops. So, Ricky, where can they go if they want to talk to us more about it?
Well, that's great that you asked, Brother Vic, because we have a ongoing new segment called What's the Chat? It's an opportunity for you guys to send in some voice clips telling us about yourselves, telling us what you like about the podcast, something that you observed about society in general, something that you'd like to talk about in the future, maybe a conversation that you had that you think that we'd be interested in relating to the podcast. What you could do is record it on your cellular device, whatever device you have that makes voice memos. And you can send that voice memo to blackliveschat@gmail.com. That's blackliveschat@gmail.com. And if you send it to us, you'll have a chance for your voice clip to be included in the following episode of BLC.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Vic.
Anytime, man.
So, all right, guys, we're going to keep on working from home for you guys. Working separately. We hope you guys are being safe and cautious. We got to flatten the curve. Yeah. We got to make sure that this thing is eradicated. Speaking of the word eradicated, so that we can go to the beach by at least August, maybe.
Yeah, hopefully, man. This is making me... I want to stop taking things for granted because now I can't go to Wawa to get like a hoagie. I can't go to a coffee shop and just do my work there. I gotta be in my house all day long.
Yeah, man.
So it's just starting to make me appreciate things way more.
It does. It really does. I saw this one meme that was like, after all this ends, if you invite me somewhere, I'm definitely gonna go. No more excuses. I'll be there.
Yeah, man.
But all right, guys. We're gonna continue to be there for you guys, and until next time, BLC out.
Black Lives Chatter. 1, you need to know that Black Lives Matter. 2, we believe in love, we believe in laughter. 3, we bring in facts, all the information gathered. Not just a podcast, this is Black Lives Chatter. Vic and Ricky in the lab with a sound mind. 2 black kings, I think it's crown time. Turn on the cast and you're up or you're downtime. We need a Black Lives outlet, think I found mine.
Black Lives Chatter because Black Lives Matter. We got interviews, opinions, and plenty witty banter. Keep you updated on the topics of the culture. Listen to the news while we watch out for the vultures.
1, you need to know that Black Lives Matter. 2, we believe in love, we believe in laughter. 3, we bring in facts, all the information gathered. Not just a podcast, this is Black Lives Chatter. 1, you need to know that Black Lives Matter. 2, we believe in love, we believe in laughter. 3, we bring in facts, all the information gathered. Not just a podcast, this